Cincinnati Bengals, Dallas Cowboys, Monday Night Football may seem like a snooze fest even if you're watching the Simpsons cast, but the data and the numbers lead us to expect a couple players to have big games in this matchup. Welcome to the full Monday Night Football breakdown. If you've never been here before, my name is Max. I do these every single week for Thursday Night Football, all the big games on Sundays, and Monday Night Football to give you the best information and data possible to help with your fantasy teams as well as your higher or lower projections. Now, last week with these picks, we went 18-5. Thursday night, we went 5-2, depending on when you're seeing this. I don't know how the 8 picks we have going Sunday are going to be, but I feel very good about them. Now, make sure you subscribe if you are not part of the family already so you don't miss any of these videos. You can turn notifications on if you want as well. Make sure you subscribe, join the family. Road to 8K. We might be at 8K by the time you're watching this video. If we are on the road to 9K. I appreciate you guys so much. You've supported me so much throughout these past couple years, but especially the past couple months this season with the YouTube channel. And if you enjoy stuff like this, make sure you like this video. It helps me understand that you enjoy content like this and helps me want to keep putting it out for you guys. So again, if you're new, join the family. Without further ado, let's get into this information though. Data outliers always lead us down a certain path. I'm going to pull up the coverage matrix for you guys real quick now, because that to me is the biggest indicator of what you can look at and what you can expect from certain teams, certain players, and certain projections. Now, the data outliers are few and far between for this game, guys. I'm not going to lie. It's tough. On Cincinnati's side, defensively, they're giving up the 10th most pass yards as well as the 11th most pass attempts. It's not to say they're bad against the run, but teams don't really run on them. They're middle of the pack against the run. They find advantage in the secondary. They take advantage of it. Teams are throwing the football on the Bengals. When the Bengals are being targeted through the air, they're being targeted at the tight end position. They're giving up the 6th most tight end yards and tied for 6th in the most receptions given up to tight ends. 10th highest inline target rate. That makes a lot of sense, right? If you're being targeted at the tight end spot, they're going to have catches. They're going to have a lot of yards. Tight ends are super important here. We'll talk about Jake Ferguson and what that means in a minute. But in terms of overall man zone coverages, they're very balanced. Now, this is the offensive coverage matrix, but there's a defensive coverage matrix that gives you an idea of how much teams run man coverage and zone coverage. Truthfully, guys, the Cincinnati Bengals are extremely balanced. There's no lean there saying they play a ton of man, they play a ton of zone. So it's very difficult to look at the Dallas Cowboys pass offense and expect any player based on the coverages that they run to have a big game. Now, the other side, the data outliers for the Dallas Cowboys, bottom 10 in rush yards per game and rush attempts, 22.83 running back attempts allowed, as well as 100-plus rush yards per game. That leans in Chase Brown. What leans in Chase Brown even more, though, they're giving up the 9th most receiving yards to opposing running backs. Their defense is solid. They really are. Micah Parsons coming back helps them out a ton. We'll talk about what they do defensively with and without Parsons, but teams run the ball on them and they check the ball down. Dallas is getting screened at the highest rate in the NFL. I looked at it. Bengals aren't throwing a ton of screens. I actually think they're dead last, but they're definitely bottom 5 in terms of their design screen percentage. But they're not throwing a ton of screens. It's check downs, especially if the Cowboys are going to be in zone. What's interesting here, though, I looked at the Dallas Cowboys numbers, just generally speaking, right, the entirety of the year. Very balanced in terms of man zone, kind of like the Bengals, and I was frustrated. I was like, there's no way you can lean here. There's no data in terms of coverage that leads us to expect more man or more zone, and that is the best indicator for player projections, the Christian Watson stuff, the receptions against zone, Drake London, Trey McBride, like all that stuff. Dallas and Cincy, they're both balanced, so there's no true lean there. But I did a little more research. Dallas has the 12th most middle field close coverage. So that's cover 3 and cover 1. They run a good amount of man, a good amount of zone. But when they run both of them, it's a lot of cover 3 and, again, some cover 1 man. You look at fantasy points per dropback against these middle field closed coverages. Joe Burrow, the 2nd most fantasy points per dropback against middle field closed coverages. Or, sorry, that's middle field. No, we got it. Middle field closed coverages behind only Lamar Jackson. Joe Burrow eats this stuff up. And I did a little bit more research in terms of the trends with and without Micah Parsons, because if you remember correctly, the Dallas Cowboys had a blip of, I think, 4 games or 5 games in the middle of the year where Micah Parsons did not play. Now, I just gave you those holistic numbers, right? Middle of the pack in zone, middle of the pack in man, just a lot of middle field close coverage. With Micah Parsons in their lineup, they change what they do defensively. It's very interesting here. Still a lot of middle field close towards the top of the middle field close, but overall zone, cover 2, more cover 3. With Micah Parsons in their lineup, The Dallas Cowboys are running the sixth most zone in the NFL. They are a zone-heavy team with Micah Parsons. And honestly, if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I'm not playing man against Cincinnati Bengals to begin with. So I would expect a lot of zone, a lot of cover three against the Cincinnati Bengals offense. And then when you look at the target rates, Dallas is being targeted at the outside. That's really their only data outlier at the second highest rate. Now, Cincinnati Bengals, you look overall 13th highest out wide target rate. And you're like, that makes no sense. They have two of the best receivers in the NFL. Well, number one, Jamar Chase runs a decent amount of routes from the slot. That's a part of it too. He's getting targeted in the slot. We'll talk about Jamar Chase, especially against cover three here in a minute. But with and without T. Higgins, I'll pull up this game log here. The snap counts, excuse me. With and without T. Higgins, there's a pretty staunch difference in terms of where the Bengals are throwing the football. You can see right here, T. Higgins missed week 1, week 2, week 8, week 9, week 10, week 12, there's a bye. So he missed 5 total games. T. Higgins, guys, when he is in the lineup, obviously is their main outside guy. That percentage of out wide targets for the Cincinnati Bengals offensively when they're throwing the football jumps up from 13th to 7th. So when T. Higgins is in the lineup, obviously he's going to get more targets, but it means the out wide target rate in its entirety, whether it's Jamar Chase, Andre Yoshivas, even Jermaine Burton at sometimes, targeting the outside even more. Over 40% of Joe Burrow's targets when T. Higgins in the lineup goes to the outside. That number was under 35% when T. Higgins was out of the lineup those 5 weeks. Or sorry, that's in its entirety, not when T. Higgins was out of the lineup. In its entirety, that number goes down a ton. Definitely something to note. On the other side with Dallas in the run game, we can pull up some data for you here too. The Dallas Cowboys run defense is not great. The issue here is the Cincinnati Bengals don't run the football. So you look at the Dallas Cowboys run defense, you can see overall, this is quarterback included, but overall rush yards per game, second most in the entire NFL, rush yards per carry, fifth most in the entire NFL, overall attempts, eighth most in the entire NFL, and then explosive run percentage, the fourth highest in the entire NFL. Now, I did a little bit of research here. We can talk some player projections in just a second with Chase Brown. Chase Brown, I was like, okay, maybe rush yards is a good amount. I looked at the Cincinnati Bengals rush offense, third fewest rush attempts. They're better in zone. They run more zone. But again, Dallas is just middle of the pack in terms of, or there's no big indicator if Dallas is worse against man gap or zone. They're bad against both. But Cincinnati has the 20th highest explosive run percentage. And you look at Dallas, you're like, this team can't stop the run. Yeah, we just talked about it. Fourth highest explosive run percentage, but on the other side, Cincinnati can't have explosive runs. This is very tough when you look at the projections for this game. Now, I think about Chase Brown's scrimmage yards because of the running back receiving yards. Again, 9th most running back receiving yards. Dallas is getting screened at the highest rate in the NFL, above average target rate to opposing running backs. Chase Brown's scrimmage yards is what I look at before anything else. You look at that right now, it's 100 scrimmage yards, but to be honest with you, he's the main back. He's gotten 103 of the last 4. He's gotten 100 in, 3 of the last 4. Not there. Oh, okay. So only recently he's picked up the 100. But remember, Zach Moss was in the lineup for the first half of the year. So we can push that to the side a little bit. Now, before I talk about any more player projections, if you guys don't know how to make your picks, there are links below to do it. I'll show you what it looks like. You can click that link below, and you can hop on here. Sleeper is going to match your first deposit up to $1,500 and give you a free half-yard pick for Monday Night Football. You have to join with code LEADS, LEADS. Underdog will do the same thing, but they'll give you a deposit bonus up to $1,000, and Better Picks will match your first deposit up to $200. Again, you have to use code LEADS. You'll get a free pick on all those sites if you do. 1, 2, 3. Make sure you guys get on that if you haven't already. And again, you can join all 3 if you're not on any of them. Get free cash on all of them, free picks on all of them. Do not miss out on this opportunity. But I will tell you, if you're also looking for my exclusive picks for the game, you have to be following me on X. You can turn on your notifications if you want to. But at Loeb's Leads on X, make sure you guys are following because I'll put out my obscure touchdown scores, my first touchdown scores. Like Thursday night, we had David Montgomery first touchdown score. It hit for everybody who followed the X. Make sure you guys are following there. It is the best place to get all my picks. It's also the easiest place for me to interact with you. So make sure you follow there. Make sure you don't miss any of that stuff. Let's keep talking these projections, though. We talked about Dallas's defense being targeted on the outside at a good amount, being susceptible to the run. They are. But the Bengals don't run the football much, so I don't really know what to think about that. Now, We also talked about Micah Parsons coming back in the lineup and increasing the zone usage for the Dallas Cowboys. Probably because, in my opinion, they feel like they don't have to add an extra rusher and they don't have to blitz more to generate pressure on the quarterback. They feel more comfortable sitting back in, usually, again, middle field closed, single high shell, loading the box a little bit. Obviously, it's not working in the run, but they feel confident sitting back in zone rather than sending an extra guy to generate pressure. Because if you know Mike Zimmer, his number one thing, you got to generate pressure, whether it's 5 guys, 6 guys, or even 4 guys. You lose that extra guy, the ability to add that extra guy when you have Micah Parsons in your lineup who can win every single one-on-one he's presented with. That is the difference there. That's why I think they're running more zone, but they are objectively running more zone with Micah Parsons. Now, T. Higgins, again, is the outside guy. And since he's thrown to the outside at a higher rate with Higgins in the lineup, and Dallas is just allowing the second highest out-wide target rate in the NFL. But Bengals versus zone coverage, if we're going to see more zone because Micah Parsons is in the lineup, Jamar Chase has by far the most yards per out run. Nobody really touches him in terms of yards per out run. Number 2, oddly enough, is Jermaine Burton. I'm not going to lean into that. But when you talk about receiver props or tight ends or running back receiving props against zone, you always want to lean receptions before you lean yards. Chances are there's less of a big play possibility. There's no like chunk plays, a lot of check downs, a lot of pre-snap reads, 5-yard hitches, things like that, right? So you want to lean receptions. Again, number 1 is Jamar Chase, obviously. But number 2 is Chase Brown. We just talked about his overall scrimmage yards projection. If he's going to run the ball effectively, even if he doesn't run the ball a ton, he's going to have 60-plus yards on the ground. Like right now, his projection for rushing yards just straight is 74. It wouldn't surprise me if he got above that. But 25 receiving yards projected. And if it's going to be a zone-heavy thing where the Bengals are giving up, the Cowboys are giving up a lot of receiving yards to running backs already, they're going to sit back in zone more. I like Chase Brown a lot. We can pull up some of these game logs against the Dallas Cowboys too in terms of overall scrimmage yards. Like obviously the Giants offense is anemic and Brian Robinson got hurt, but you go look at some of the other elite backs. Joe Mixon 150 plus. This is a blowout here, but Bijan 86 on the ground, 59 through the air. Gibbs almost 100. Montgomery didn't really produce in the receiving game. Garendo with over 100 when they played. Najee with, 42, 35, 77, so a little bit lower for Najee. But again, the true third down guy on this Steelers team, Jalen Warren, was not healthy when they played this game. Don't want to talk about the Giants offense anymore. Derrick Henry, you see that 151, but also 23 through the air. Kamara 115 and 65. And then week 1, again, the Browns run game struggle. So anytime you play somebody who's good out of the backfield in terms of receiving, they have good games. They crack that or get close to cracking that 100-yard mark. I think Chase Brown does the same thing in terms of scrimmage yards. Number 3 in receptions is T. Higgins, though. And it's really tough when you look at this Cowboys team because T. Higgins is really the guy against man, but a projection of 6 receptions. I mean, he's hit it in 2 of the last 4. He's hit it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 of 7, 4 of 7 overall. And what I think is going to be a pass-heavy game. It's not bad, but I can't confidently do it, especially Jamar Chase is projected 6.5. Like that extra reception pushes it over the top for me. I'm like, I don't know, because the Cowboys' run defense is so bad. So if I'm the Bengals, I have that edge almost. I have that ability to run the ball on a team. I'm going to lean into it. It's going to make life easier for my entire offense. You can lean into the Bengals pass catchers if you want. Again, if you guys haven't already checked out or follow my Instagram, there's a link below to do that. We always water down our favorite picks for the primetime games and put them all together. So check that out. We'll probably water down T. Higgins and Jamar Chase because they're good but not great. But straight, Chase Brown scrimmage is awesome. I like that a lot. On the other side, though, it's very simple, and there's really only 2 things you can look at. It's the pass volume. And again, with Cooper Rush, they're very, very balanced in terms of where they throw the football. Very, very balanced in terms of where they throw the football, but where the Bengals allow throws to go, out wide and in line. Jake Ferguson is out of protocol. It sounds like he is playing this game. You look at some of his projections, which in most places are not out, but on Sleeper they are. So make sure you guys check that out. You look at his projections, again, against a pretty balanced team. He's only projected 5 catches. He's had 5 catches in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of 7 healthy games, 5 of 8 healthy games. And again, Cincinnati Bengals, we can go look at game logs against those teams right there. Cincinnati Bengals tight ends against Cincinnati Bengals. You got 6 for Freiermuth, 6 for Andrews, 5 for Bowers. You want to lean into Grant Calcaterra, get data, go ahead. 10 for Njoku, only 3 for Theo Johnson. It's Theo Johnson. 4 for Mark Andrews. That's the only one where I look at him like, okay, maybe there's an outlier there. But you still had other tight ends producing 3 apiece for Kolar and Likely. You want to lean into Panthers tight ends, go ahead, be my guest. 5 for Ertz. Kelsey in week 2, that again kind of worries me, but Patriots tight ends not really. Against solid tight ends for the most part, they're catching 5 balls. I'll pull up this game log. I didn't realize I didn't show you guys. You can see here again, tight ends for Cincinnati, 6, 6, 5. Again, it's Grant Calcaterra. 10 and then 4 for Akins. Theo Johnson, sure, go ahead. 4 for Andrews, but 3 apiece for the second and third string. 5 for Ertz. I trust the ability that Cooper Rush has to check the ball down to get the ball to Jake Ferguson when in need. And again, you look at some of the production from Schoonmaker when he's been out too. I can read you some of those game logs. He's been playing really well. But with Jake Ferguson back in the lineup, he's not going to see as much work, and that's the reality. So he had 6 against Houston. He had 55 yards against Washington. Now, I will tell you, because it's balanced, you can lean yards before you go catches. Like right now, actually, 36 yards might be a little bit more enticing because 36, healthy games. Let's go look at the game logs for tight end yards. You guys are actively trying to figure this out with me. But I like Jake Ferguson. So Freiermuth, 68, Disley, 80, Andrews, 68, 45 for Bowers, 58 for Calcaterra. Okay, maybe we'll lean there, 76. Theo Johnson, whatever. Kolar, Andrews, both with 55 plus. See, this is what up 38 is still a good number. Hooper. So you know what? I take that back. I'm not going to go Ferguson catches. I'm going to go Ferguson yards. I like that a little bit more. Again, 36 receiving yards. It should be completely fine. I think both will be completely fine, to be honest with you. But because since he's so balanced, because they struggle more against yards than receptions, we'll go yards for Jake Ferguson, Chase Brown scrimmage yards, and then again, we'll probably water down T. Higgins and Jamar Chase's receptions. Now, I did a little work with the Bengals run defense against the Cowboys run offense, but like Bengals run defense is solid, middle of the pack in most advanced categories. Cowboys aren't running the ball super efficiently. 12th fewest yards per game, 8th fewest yards per carry. Like, I don't want to lean into Rico Dowdle, to be honest with you guys. I think this is a tough game to predict. The data, when you dive really deep into it, it's Ferguson, it's Chase Brown. And if you want to continue to look at wide receivers, like if I had to pick one wide receiver to look at, I'll go with Jamar Chase just because of the more consistent production. But it's extremely balanced in terms of the run game. Chase Brown has an edge on the Bengals side in terms of receiving. If you want to go Chase Brown receiving yards, go ahead. I think scrimmage is better because the Cowboys run defense is just that bad. But the other side, since he's allowing a lot of tight ends, a lot of yards to tight ends, the only interesting thing here is looking at Cooper Rush's pass attempts, and this is what we'll finish with. Because, again, I think this is a game where Dallas probably going to be losing. They're probably going to be trailing. And he's projected 37 pass attempts right now. They beat the Giants and he threw the ball 36 times. Interesting. 32 against Washington, 55 against Houston. That's crazy. But then 23 against Philly. Then he came in late against Atlanta. So you know what? Maybe you lean into Cooper Rush's pass attempts. 36 pass attempts is pretty good. We can go look at some game logs against for the Bengals too. I have a funny feeling it's going to be pretty high up there. So 36. We're looking at Russ, 38. Herbert, 36. Lamar, 33. That's fine. You got 2 quarterbacks here, 33. Hurts, 20. Eagles, Bengals. Eagles won that game. Browns, 28. Oh, no, wait. That is more than 28. That is 30. Yeah. More than 36, 41 for Daniel Jones, 42 for Lamar, 40 for Dalton. You know what? I'm going to put it down. For tentatively, I'm going to put down Cooper Rush pass attempts. I do like that. Remember, if I'm not on that, if I change my mind, it'll be on X, so make sure you follow. But I will tell you guys right now, the 3 picks I like the most, Chase Brown scrimmage, Jake Ferguson receiving yards will be on those. And then I think I'm going to go Cooper Rush pass attempts. But that's what I'm on. I'll water down the top picks, the T. Higgins, Jamar Chase stuff. That'll be on my Instagram below. But I appreciate you guys hopping on. I appreciate you watching the Monday Night Football breakdown, the final breakdown for Week 14, the final breakdown of the fantasy regular season 2. If you guys have been with me since Week 1, I appreciate you. If you're new, welcome. Make sure you join the family if you haven't already. We will see you guys for next Thursday Night Football, which I believe, let me double check what this game is. Next Thursday Night Football, I'm trying to think. Next Thursday night is Rams 49ers. So we'll see you guys for the Rams 49ers breakdown. That'll be a very good one. Fascinated to see how Isaac Guerrero does this weekend because I think we'll look at him in that game. But we'll see you guys next time. God bless you. Have a great weekend.